All right, so I got a really big union update here for you guys. Obviously, recently we were talking about the potential for a historic UPS strike that actually ended up not really coming to fruition because the union, through the power of collective, worker organizing, was able to actually get a pretty solid deal for those workers. So much so that you had a bunch of ghouls and goblins in the media that were complaining that UPS corporate got shafted in that deal, which you love to see. And now we have another potential massive strike that could be in the works with the UAW union. So basically, the UAW union is encompassing some of the big three automakers within the United States. You have Stellantis, you have GM, General Motors, and you have Ford. And basically, these workers are fighting for some, per usual, basic demands that obviously these massive multi-billion-dollar corporations could absolutely afford to give them. And I just want to go through. I got some notes here just to give you guys a perspective in terms of what exactly they are fighting for, and then we'll get to more details in terms of what could potentially happen down the road and when the strike deadline is and all of that. But so basically, one of the major things that I've read about is that they used to get these cost of living adjustments before the '08 financial crash, when obviously these car companies looked like they were potentially going to end up going bankrupt, and the unions actually decided to help the companies stay alive by taking cuts on things like cost of living adjustments. Basically, your wages are tracked to inflation. As that goes up, your pay increases alongside of it. You also have this implementation of something that we've seen at multiple other companies as well, including UPS, which is basically this tiered system where new workers are not getting even remotely close to the same benefits as workers who have been there for a while. And essentially, that could encompass things like, pensions. Some of the newer workers aren't getting pensions at all. Some of the retirement benefits, including like healthcare once you retire. Other things like raises, again, that are tracked to inflation and that are, keeping pace on a regular basis. And all of this, you also have, things like them using temp workers to basically supplement for their lack of hiring of full-time workers, which is just completely ridiculous. And they'll keep stringing people along who are essentially full-time workers, but they're not classified as full-time workers, so they're not able to get a lot of the benefits that full-time workers would be able to get. And all of this is basically just a typical classic divide and conquer approach that these corporations are trying to use to sort of keep a tiered system in place amongst these union members. And thankfully, they are standing in solidarity with each other and potentially going to go on strike in order to get rid of that tiered system, in order to bring back the cost of living adjustments and all of those other things as well. And again, it's incredibly fucked up that we're talking about some of these benefits being sacrificed willingly by these workers to keep these companies alive and to keep their jobs alive during that '08 crash. And then you have these massive bailouts that happen, and then these companies never gave them those benefits back. And it's not as if, again, that they're short for cash or anything. These are companies that are making tens of billions of dollars on an annual basis just in profits. They absolutely could afford to pay these workers what they deserve and to give them the benefits that they deserve. You have these CEOs who are getting massive bonuses and making millions and millions of dollars a year, and some of these workers, I was listening to some testimonies earlier, they can barely afford to get by. Some of these workers are having to go and get second jobs or working part-time in other fields and stuff, which is just completely ridiculous, right? They're working full-time, they're putting in the effort, they're making profit for this company, and they're just not seeing a lot of the rewards from it. And so basically what we're left with is that on September 14th, that's the strike deadline, and the workers actually just ended up voting recently over the last couple of days on an authorization for this potential strike that is going to be on, again, September 14th. That's sort of the window of time that they have to make a deal in order to prevent the strike from happening. And the workers voted 97% to vote in, authorization of that potential strike. So, clearly it seems like they are standing in solidarity with each other and that it seems to be a pretty uniform consensus. And another aspect of this that I wanted to talk about is that you also have a new union president, this guy, Shawn Fain, who's been there over the last, I think, couple of years at this point. And he has a much more militant approach, which is a good thing, right? Some union presidents, right, they'll be pretty cozy to the corporate side of the equation, and maybe they're not fighting as hard as they could be, but it seems like this guy, Shawn Fain, is very militant, very aggressive, and he's actually standing with the interests of the workers and is not willing to give an inch at this point. So credit to him. him, and credit obviously to the workers who are willing to go and take this massive step potentially to fight for some of the benefits and the wages that they deserve. And one other thing that I just wanted to talk about before I end this video is that again, there's going to be this massive media backlash that we saw during the UPS potential, lead up to that strike. There's going to be, some narratives that are coming out about, oh, this is going to cost the economy billions of dollars if they go out on strike and all of this and that. And it's just complete bullshit. I mean, if anybody is to blame for this strike even being a potential in the first place, it would be the corporations who are screwing over their workers. I mean, again, it's not as if these companies aren't making profits. We can see exactly what they're saying to their shareholders. We can see what they're paying their CEOs. We can see their balance sheets. We know exactly how much money that they are raking in, and that they absolutely can afford to give these workers what they are demanding. So, at the end of the day, solidarity with these workers. I hope, they end up going on strike. They end up, fighting and succeeding to get all of these things that they are trying to demand. And once again, it is just a perfect reminder in terms of what the power of a union can get you under a capitalist economic system, where if you engage in this act of solidarity, if you are willing to organize collectively with your fellow workers, you have a lot more strength than just individually, trying to go up to your boss and asking for a raise or asking for better benefits. This is what gives you that protection. And so, I have another story that I'm probably going to cover tomorrow, which is this massive new rule update that was just announced by the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, under Biden, which, as I've talked about on this channel before, has been much more, significantly more pro-labor than previous American presidents, which probably isn't saying that much because most American presidents are fervently anti-labor and pro-corporate on this, equation here. But Biden's NLRB has been doing phenomenally well, I would say. Not perfect, but much better than previous administrations. And they just announced a massive new rule update that's going to protect workers as they are trying to form unions. And again, I'll cover that tomorrow. So stay tuned. Again, love to see that these workers are, discovering or, trying to reinforce, I guess, sort of this, a centuries old approach to unionization and being much more militant and actually fighting and making demands for themselves. And, again, I hope they get every single goddamn thing that they are demanding.